Hello everyone, welcome to Urbanscape Bangalore. And in this episode, we will be talking about the miniature tree fern or the Oceanopteris gibba, which belongs to the Blechnaceae fern family. This is native to Fiji and this can grow up to 6 feet tall and is characterized by a trunk that resembles the actual tree ferns. Though the fronds of this one and the real tree fern are quite distinct, the trunk is actually a rhizome, or in other words, a modified stem that produces roots and shoots. Now let's look at how to differentiate between the tree fern and the mini tree fern. The real tree fern belongs to the family Dixonaceae, Metaxaceae, and Cibotiaceae. The tree fern grows as tall as a small tree compared to the more stunted mini tree fern. The mini tree fern trunks get exposed only when the lower leaves are removed, whereas the tree ferns can be found with naked tall rhizomes with terminal fronds almost depicting a coconut tree. Now let's move on to its care and propagation. Sunlight. Now this fern, like all ferns, are shade-loving plants, so you can grow them ideally in a shaded balcony that has ample air circulation. If grown indoors, make sure you grow this in a south or west bright location, and the leaves kind of tend to get a more dark green color when kept away from bright sunlight, and the leaves turn a little pale green when it gets more sunlight. This factor is a personal preference and isn't considered harmful unless and until you see the leaves burn or stress out. Watering. Like all ferns, these deserve consistent watering and humidity. So during summers, water every day when outdoors, and when indoors, make sure you water immediately when you see the soil is drying. During winters, they go dormant like the other ferns, and you can reduce watering as needed. Humidity. Humidity can either be created by clustering other plants around this or by simply spraying the leaves with water. If you see a mealy bug infestation, it is better to avoid such misting. To be honest, I have never sprayed water onto their leaves, but while watering, I ensure to water them from head to toe. This is again if you have these growing outdoors. If you have a brightly lit south or west facing bathroom, then you can place this plant there as well for some added humidity. Fertilizing. This does well in acidic soil, so amend the medium with compost every once in 3 months, or the dead and dry leaf litter will anyway act as mulch and fertilize the plant. Leaf compost is ideal here since the nitrogen level needs to be more for a foliage plant like the fern. Seaweed solution can also be added with 3 or 4 drops of seaweed in a liter of water. Potting mix. Now ferns are known to do well in boggy or water-laden soil, so if you have a clay soil, you can add the plant in such mediums. However, you can use a mix I use for ferns, that is 40% garden soil, 30% compost and 30% sand. Container size. Since this has a more stunted growth, you can use a small container at first that is somewhat proportional to the height of the frond. So choose a pot that has a diameter that encompasses the whole frond structure inside it, and a comparatively shallow container would be fine. As and when the plant grows, shift it into a bigger pot. Container type. I prefer terracotta or ceramic for my ferns. You can use metal as well. Pruning. This is a self-cleaning plant, and if you want, you can remove the lower leaves manually like this. Pests and diseases. Now, mealybugs are some of the worst enemies of the fern, especially if your fern is under stress for some reason. But mine has never had a mealybug episode as yet, thankfully. But indoor ferns are very susceptible to rot or mealybug infestation. If you think your plant is suffering from overwatering or rot, take it outside in the balcony and nurse it till it becomes alright, and take it back indoors during the summer months. For mealybugs, consistent neem oil application thrice a week can mitigate the problem to a large extent. Propagation. The ferns, as you know, propagate through spores in the wild primarily. But since that's a more distant probability in the garden, your best bet would be manual separation of the baby plant from its mother. Ensure you remove the whole plant structure with the roots intact. The black leaves you see at the base have spores underneath. They are not rotting or diseased, so stop worrying. So my first task before propagation is to remove the whole plant from the container, and once that is done, separate the pups from the mother plant. Make sure you get the whole plant with few roots and the rhizome intact. Also remove the dead and drying leaves. Some leaves that come with some part of the rhizome can be planted, and I will share the update on this very soon if at all it works. Now take a new container with the same potting mix as mentioned earlier and place it inside and backfill. After this, drench it with water. The mother plant has become a little root bound, so I am teasing the roots before adding it back in the same container. Cold hardiness. This is a tropical plant and will not tolerate frost or extreme cold. Growth tendency. This is quite a vigorous plant and can outcompete other plants grown in the same pot. I had mine growing with some zinnias and mums, and the only thing surviving in this container is the mini tree fern. So, if you want to bring home a plant that has outlived humanity and will most probably outlive humanity in the future too, then bring home a fern and a mini tree fern at that. And with this, we've come to the end of yet another episode of Urbanscape Bangalore, and I really hope you enjoyed this particular program. Additionally, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook. The links are given below. And always remember, to grow slow is to grow well. Until we meet again, a very warm goodbye.